Hi, everyone. It is the quarantine coming to you live from the quarantine. I'm Seth in New Jersey. With
And
me is
Asaf
the
here from
incredible,
Israel.
yes, the incredible friend, the incredible man, Asaf in Israel. We are now several weeks into the quarantine, and all kind of things are happening in the world now. People are getting restless in the States. There are protests that people want to go back out. And the president is it's very interesting because you don't know, are the interests when you read something in the newspaper, is this the interest in order to get reelected, is this the interest from, in order to get voter approval, is this the interest of some billionaires who are controlling industries like the airline industry, or are these the interests of or is this what's in the best interest of all humanity? We are here to talk about how to educate ourselves for the new world that we're entering. We're not going back to the old world, and we have to prepare ourselves for a new world. We have Marty Mutlu. Uh, Asaf, I just forgot Marty Mutlu's last name.
Maiden.
Meydan? Meydan.
Yeah.
Marty Mutlu Meydan will be joining us today, financial expert, to talk about, from the Kabbalistic perspective, actually a very
Yeah, he's both a financial expert and a Kabbalah expert, really. He's a very long
a
time
teacher
dedicated
also, yeah, a longtime
Kabbalah
teacher
teacher. Yeah.
in the wisdom of Kabbalah as well. So a very interesting perspective on these things that will be free from biases like, what stock my clients need to pick or something, but really, how do we understand from the point of view of nature what's happening, what the Kabbalists explain to us, that this isn't like, and the Kabbalists aren't opening up the newspaper and giving some kind of commentary, but it's the same story that we've been learning, that Kabbalists have been learning for hundreds, thousands of years. There is a process of development that's happening that's bringing us all to a certain stage. Until we arrive there, we don't know what the details are going to look like because that's new. Also, with the population, the more people there are in the world, the the more the form of it changes, because each person is then able to carry um, a small piece of it instead of a few people carrying something. So, Asaf, maybe I pass it over to you. You could talk about some of the things going on in the world. Say hi to everybody. Oh, we also, one more
Yeah,
thing
let's
before I
talk
pass
about
it to
how
you.
to everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we want to include our, look at that. Corin is here again. This guy is at every show. Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
and we see
Uh,
Omar from Brazil also, I'm seeing, and
wow.
Shira from North Carolina, and we have on YouTube Alex from Miami, and we got a bunch more people. Tell us where you're from, guys. I think that's what really wanted to say. Tell
What I
us where
want to
you're
say
watching
is, yeah,
from.
who are you, and where are you from? And then we want to include in our show now more interaction with you. So if you have questions about what's going on, please let us know.
Yeah, and if you
And
have a
we'll just
question that we may not pick it up right away, but maybe in a few minutes we will, or after we speak to our guest, or before. So we are very much interested in that. If you want to chat with us, use the chat. We are here. So yeah.
you had an article. I think you had an article you wanted
Yeah, I
to share
did.
here.
I did. Check this out. So you were just saying, we're never going back or something like that, I believe you said.
I don't really have an opinion on this because I'm not smart enough to understand. But what I understand from the Kabbalists is that, and from our teacher specifically, is that nature is moving all humanity towards a world where everyone loves each other and everyone cares for each other. That's the system of nature. The system that we left was a system where everybody went out every day to exploit each other, exploit the earth. So and because of the stage of development that we're in now, according to what our teacher is saying, according to what the books of Kabbalah is saying, we are only nature will only allow us to go forward and won't let us to go back.
Right. Okay. Okay. So check this out. I'll put it here so you can see it as well. So there's this. I read this interesting piece from John Naughton. I think he's pronounced his name. Anyway, an opinion article in the Guardian when COVID-19 has done with us, what will be the new normal? And he points out some interesting things with regards to how quickly, things are changing when there is a pandemic. How, in a matter of like days, you have millions of people suddenly working from home, things that could have taken years or not happen at all, and many other changes. But what I really found interesting is like kind of how he concludes it, saying this: the most important implication of the breakneck changes currently underway, though, is that there's no going back to normality. That train has left the station. The coronavirus isn't going away. He then even goes and continues and talks about how even if there is a vaccine, then this is going to be problematic. The risk will endure because there's climate change, there's the erosion of wildlife, and there's basically more viruses that nature, he calls it zoonotic viruses. I didn't research that, but more viruses that nature has in store. Basically, the world is going through some fast-paced change that is too fast for us to digest. This is what I think is really interesting. And now you also mentioned how some people in the U.S. are protesting, saying, let us go back out there, let us go back to work. And I noticed something interesting about that as well. Check this out. So people in Britain are enjoying cleaner air, better food, and stronger social bonds, and they say they don't want to return to normal. There's only 9%.
Okay. But
there's only 9% of people in the UK, according to a poll, that say they want to go to life back to normal, so to speak.
Well, one thing we learned for sure during this coronavirus is that all of the numbers that we read about in the papers are total BS.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it gives you some, just the fact that this is a headline and people are seeing it, and it interfaces and with some feelings that people have, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really mind those polls and the statistics and all that, but just the fact that the world is talking and contemplating and considering the idea that the world is changing. Some people realize it more, some people recognize it less, some people want it to happen, some people don't want it to happen. But one way or another, it's happening. Well, what?
The governments have a real problem right now.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, they want to keep people healthy. Presumably.
Yeah, sure.
They want people to be healthy and not die.
They just don't want their system of control to collapse, basically. They're under their reign.
Even more simple than that, how do you feed everybody? How do you keep the lights on? It costs money to keep if no one goes on the roads, I guess you don't have to worry about the roads so fast, but it costs a certain amount of money to make sure in the United States that 350 million people can eat every day. That 350 million people have a place to sleep, that a war doesn't break out. So the governments have a serious problem at hand. The issue is that the left is totally, I mean, if we look at the kind of media that's on between the total erosion of families and just prostitution and whatever, just everything just so in the face of children, everything just so. I'm not talking about the oldest profession.
We haven't built a society with a climate that is productive for building
all the kids play games,
healthy human beings. Of course,
right.
Violence, gory stuff on TV all the time, bullying at school, drugs, prostitution, all the rest. Of course, yeah. Our media and our society as a result is saturated with all of these.
So on the left has kind of deteriorated the family and all that stuff, and then but it started out good. It was like, good, let's give people freedoms. The left, that's what the whole thing was. Let's give people freedoms. Don't tell me what I can sing about. Don't tell me what I can't write about. So it was a great force, but it became completely corrupted. On the other hand, the right is also completely corrupted. So we're in a real conundrum now, and government doesn't really know what to do. And now nature is trying to teach us, but we're not really able to listen to it. I got a couple comments on some post I read on Facebook this week where I was writing something about, loving one another, and a couple people wrote, words are cheap, let me see some action that you did. Show me
Yeah.
how you loved people. Show me how you went and handed out masks, or show me how you went and built a hospital, or show me
Sure.
something.
Sure.
And it really pointed out something, that I don't think we need to go out and run out and build anything for anybody. No, certain people need to. Certain doctors need to be. I'm not talking about the doctors on the front line and the people who are building, temporary hospitals and things. The main work right now for us here, like everybody watching the show, Siv in Norway and Joseph in Florida, hi Joe, Kamina, everybody, our main work right now is to, at Montenegro, wow,
Yeah.
Pakistan,
I
oh my
just saw.
God,
I
this is
just saw
incredible.
that. I
By the
just
way,
saw that. Yeah.
everybody here is worth, like, I don't know, 10 is worth the value of like 100 million people, each of you, easily. So yeah, uh, because it's quality. What we need, the main action for us is an action of education right now.
Yeah.
It's an action of ourselves understanding. If I go out and I'm giving away masks, but we don't want to get too much into intention right now, because it's more of a fine thing. But if we go out and inside, our goal is just, what am I do? How am I doing this for myself? How am I benefiting from this? We're not building this new world where it's a software upgrade, where my motivation, where your motivation every day is to go out in order to love the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Amen.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So okay. Okay. So what we're really talking about is, what is the level at which the change in human society, in human consciousness, needs to happen. And, there's no doubt that we do have to balance the giving and the taking. The human society has gone way out of balance with the taking, and we need to balance it with the giving. But just, doing actions like that is not going to be the solution. The solution is going to be a root solution. We need a change, a fundamental change on the human conscious level. And that comes from a change of culture. That's why we need education. Human beings need to be taught everything they do. Unlike animals, we don't have instincts that guide us to what we should eat, how much we should eat, how we should take care of our environment, how we should be in balance with, how much we give and take from, to and from others and the environment and nature itself. All the animals, all the plant life, and all the rest of nature, they're already in a program of reciprocity and balance with the natural system. We humans don't have that, but there's a reason for that. The reason we don't have that instinctively is in order for us to develop it consciously. And so like you said, our motivations to life need to undergo a software upgrade, if you want to call it like that. We need to start living for a different goal. And if the old world told us that the goal was to maximize benefit as much as I possibly can, and even at the account of others, and even to trample others on my way to that maximum benefit if I can, then the new world tells you this is no longer working. In the new world, we have to aim at the benefit of the whole. And that can only be achieved through positive connections between us, through a new kind of collective consciousness that we have to develop, where we finally move towards balance with the whole of nature and with each other. And so we could say that, it's funny when people ask, are we going back to normal? When are things going back to normal? Sometimes I talk to some people here, relatives, like, how are you doing? How's the quarantine and all that? And some people, at some point in the conversation, there's typically something like, yeah, but, when is this all going to be over? And, hopefully as soon as possible, and it will just go back to normal. But this is the thing, the fact that this is what I wanted to also to point out with these articles before, the fact that people are contemplating this, the fact that this is now on the agenda of human consciousness, the thinking about, by agenda I mean like the it's in people's minds. Are we going back to normal? That question, what is normal, and are we going back to it? That
what's an option, Asaf? I mean, okay, you said humans, like, okay, a horse comes out of baby horse comes out of mommy horse, and 2 hours later he's running around, right? Or baby lizard comes out of egg, and half an hour later he's already walking around eating. So you said that a human needs to learn everything. Okay,
everything.
Okay, so how is a human supposed to know?
Even how to But here's
you said people are saying, when are we going back? How is a person supposed to know that there's another option? Right now it's as if somebody pushed pause, and then some people in government or whatever will go out and fight against this disease, kill the disease, and then I can go back to my life.
But first of all,
how is a person supposed to understand?
But because we're not supposed to just download this idea, we're supposed to scrutinize it and to self-scrutinize and start thinking about the meaning of our lives. Start thinking about what we're living for. What does it mean to go back to normal? What do we really, just on a very simple human level even, starting from that, do we want to go back to our previous state? Really? A world saturated with all that bad stuff that we were talking about before? A world where your children have to defend themselves at school from bullying and from shaming on social media, and from, when you have to make sure that they don't see too much violent content or pornographic content or get involved with drugs or all that stuff. And on the other hand, you have to teach them to survive in this dog-eat-dog world and make sure that they can do what's needed to make a living and all of that stuff. And we're living in a world of stress and filling up our aspirations with what we are taught, again, because we as humans we learn everything from our environment, filling our aspirations with just consumerism, materialism, or all kinds of aspirations that the media and other vested interests are putting into us. And so we need to we have an opportunity now to pause this thing and start thinking, wait a minute, what's going on? What are we doing with this whole human society experiment, with this global experiment called human society?
Let's round the corner now. So, okay. So we went around the corner. Now here we are. Somehow the entire world stopped, 150 countries, everyone quarantined, in a matter of 2 weeks, whatever it is. There are forces that can change things quickly. What we learn as human beings is that thought and desire is that thing. So while we're here in this show, we're going to ask everybody that's with us to start somehow in your heart to start activating. Hi, Sash. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Adriana, I think in Colorado. Yasir, hi everyone.
Yasir says software update, or we will need to buy a new phone. I think that's deep, actually. That's true. It's true, There's I don't know exactly if he meant how I interpret it, but that's cool. So you were going to ask everyone who's watching something.
Yeah, everyone who's watching here, we are already a force, since each one of you counts as a couple million people each in quality. Let
me just explain why Seth is saying that. Seth is saying that because we learn in Kabbalah that the people who are focusing on their desire for the purpose of life and the meaning of this race that we're all in, they're speeding up human development towards that goal, towards that purpose. And every time, every moment that a person is engaged in this conscious activity, We're sending ripples throughout the world, throughout the human network. All humanity is connected, and we're sending these waves of consciousness throughout the world. And thus, the world changes. And now we're at a point in time where, these are the efforts that count. These are the moments that count. This is what humanity needs. And this is the change that you are spearheading. So, go ahead.
Maybe somebody here watching has a cat at home. Okay, a few of the viewers went down a stuff, so now each one here counts as even more. So if, maybe somebody here has a cat at home, and the cat sits there, eats its food, takes a nap, and that's the life of the cat. It doesn't change much, and generation to generation, the cat won't change. But you have a person. A person can go through 100 lives, in a day, can go through so many changes internally. And that's what we're talking about. And that's what we're doing here. So each person here, while we're sitting here, let's aim our hearts together. Let's think about, what does it mean to be connected? What does it mean to be, what could it possibly be to be in a new world where we all cared about ourselves, where we got up in the morning and we felt that I'm going to go outside and everyone is going to be looking out for me. And I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking, I want everything to be good for everyone. And now we enter into a different world. We enter into the marketplace in a different way. We enter into a new kind of work. We enter into a new kind of education for our children. Imagine bringing your children to a place where everybody there is thinking about, how can this be great for everyone, so that all of these children grow up together to look out for one another, to take care of each other.
And
think about it.
And this world, this new world, this connected world, is not only possible, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's inevitable. Okay, I think we have our guest ready here, and I think it's a good time to introduce our guest.
Let's do it.
So let's do it. With us, in a matter of seconds, there we go, is
brought his gold.
Marty Mutlu Meydan, and he is a financial expert and also a Kabbalah expert. He's a teacher and, of course, a dedicated longtime student of Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman, and a financial expert. And we want to hash out with you these questions that we just discussed in the economic context. Are we going back to normal? Yes, no. What does it mean? What's going to happen? Help us uncover. Mutlu, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. Couldn't be
Are you
better.
out of your quarantine within quarantine?
That's right. I'm out of quarantine within quarantine, so I'm having a really good time with the family. So I'm really happy
Great.
things have actually happened like this. Finally getting to spend some time with the family, so it's great.
Oh man, we were just talking about, we looked at some headlines, how, and just in a nutshell, the world is starting to grapple with these questions of, when are we going back to normal? Are we going back to normal? Am I going back to my job? Is the world going to be the same? Is the market going to be the same? And we've seen that, one part of the world, some people are protesting the quarantine, saying, let us out, let us go to work, we can do this. Other people, in Britain, for example, there's a poll that says that only 9% of people want to go back to normal. Like, people are happy with this change that is happening. So the world is going through this turbulence with regards to the question, are we going back to normal? So what do you think? Are we going back to normal?
Well, certainly from a historical point of view, if we look at human history and all the revolutions that we've done, and everything that we actually did to revolutionize our life has been from bad state to a better state, or we've tried to do something good from a bad state, and we've never been actually able to go back to anything in life. So as humanity evolves, what happens here is many people lack the calculation of the psychological impact of what's happening to a person. So it's more than just an economic model of carrying on with capitalism. What we have to factor in here is the psychological influence it has on people, and this new arrangement of life that's coming onto us, and how we're actually changing with these new changes. So you can't really expect humanity to go back a state. It's never happened before. And what the main problem here is, as humanity, we don't understand that we're changing day by day. And because the majority of humanity is quite unconscious about their personal change, personal inner change, they don't understand that the me yesterday is not the same me as today. And this is simply because of the lack of conscious human development. Had we been conscious about all our development throughout history, we would immediately recognize I can't even go back to yesterday. So this lack of recognition it's like a two-edged knife. If you use it properly, you can cut yourself a loaf of bread. If you use it the wrong way, you'll cut your finger. So humanity going backwards is not going to be an option simply because they've never been able to do it. Russia wanted to go back to communism after communism fell. They were unable to do it. They couldn't do it because on the one hand, they were ready. They were used to getting all that bread and all that government welfare from the government. And once it collapsed, they wanted to go back, but they couldn't. So there is no going back, even back to communism, where
Mutlu, let me
everything
ask you a
was
question
free.
though. There's something in there that I need clarified because I was living in Manhattan during 9/11, and after 9/11, everybody was so kind to everyone, and everybody was holding doors for everybody, and it felt like, wow, it's a new world. And then like 3 weeks later, it felt like we went back. So my question is, I understand what you're saying, but I need a little more clarification because there's something else in humanity which people just, when are we going back? Like you're saying, it's very, very strong, that forced, even if the back was like horrible for me with debt and traffic and you know after a couple weeks after 9/11, people were just like the same rotten people towards each other again.
Mhm. Well, look, human nature is not going to change at the moment. Okay, so when I'm talking about a psychological impact on society, I'm definitely not talking about humanity all of a sudden changing and being nice to each other. We have to understand that this change is a process. And as you will also discover, probably as we go deeper and deeper into the economic recession in the next 2 to 3 years, when governments will try to exactly do what you're saying right now, they will want to go back. So their initial instinct is to extend capitalism as best they can, okay, to take it back as best they can. It's not going to work out. Okay, first of all, that's not going to happen. The stock exchange in just a matter of few weeks lost everything it gained in the past several years. In 1 month or even 3 weeks, it fell so sharp they lost everything that they gained in the past several years. So these things are very cumbersome stuff. We're talking about mass decrease in valuation of economy here. So going back cannot happen. Okay, this is just a point where they're trying to stretch it out as best they can because of lack of options, because they don't know where to go. What are we
They don't
going
know
to
what to
do?
do.
Exactly. So what are we going to do instead of capitalism? So you can't go back to communism because that never worked and it won't work. So if capitalism fails, then what are we going to do? So here comes a dilemma, because the governments don't know what to do. The people are changing. They're on a new psychological shift. And let's be logical about it. Who would want to go back to work after having the luxury of actually staying at home for a while? The only reason most people want to go back to work is because of lack of security. Okay, because you can't tell what's going to happen. Are they going to take my home? Are they going to take my car? Am I going to have food in the fridge? So people are not afraid of this change in society. They're afraid because of the lack of security in society. Okay, so there's this fear of future. So if you had a situation where you actually got rid of that fear of future, nobody would ever want to go back to capitalism. Who
Okay,
wants
so
to run around all day?
we need to imprint that right there. So can you repeat that again? That was
If you delete, okay, the fear of uncertainty and the fear of future from the public and tell them, listen, guys, We can have a new model of economy where you don't have to worry about starving to death. You don't have to worry about losing your house, and you don't have to worry about, being out homeless. Okay. You just stop it right there, pause it for a moment, and give some kind of security to the people that life will go on. Okay. And they don't need to have any fears about it. Nobody would want to go back to capitalism. Capitalism has been a whip on our backs for decades, and it's not serving anyone except the few elite. And the governments know about it, the people know about it. Everybody knows that every government is corrupt. Everybody knows the European Union government is corrupt. Everybody knows that the United Nations is probably one of the most corrupt organizations on the planet. These are all well-known facts. So humanity is only trying to go back because it can't envision for itself an option, and it can't overcome this fear of what's going to happen to me. They're both right in the sense that, the fear is a righteous fear. So, what can you do if you got kids and stuff?
Shira Land is at Shira. Also, if you want to tell us where you're from, Shira is asking on Facebook, are there any economic systems that would be viable?
There is only one viable economic system for humanity, and that's mutual sharing. Now, humanity has a problem with sharing. It has enough resources on an ongoing basis to feed everyone. There is no lack of food, no lack of water, no lack of air for anyone, no lack of housing, no lack of health. There is no lack of anything on the planet. I guarantee you that. It is enough for 8 billion. It'll be enough for 50 if we have on the planet. Humanity has a problem of sharing. Instead of sharing what we have, we like to keep that stuff in the fridge and watch it go over the expiry date and chuck it in the bin. So until this change that occurs in our mentality, we're not really going to have the ability to do this the soft way, but we'll have to go through it the hard way. And that depends really on the education of everyone, including ourselves. We need to start educating ourselves that if I'm rich and my neighbor is hungry, I'm living in the US, he's got a gun, I'm not going to be able to sleep in comfort or eat in comfort.
Okay, so we're now moving from theory, our show, not theory, but our show has been mostly at a high level. And now you're coming on today and we're really turning a certain corner again. Okay, my neighbor A is rich, neighbor B is not rich, okay? But what is neighbor A going to do? He's just going to give out all of his food to neighbor B? No. So what how does more practical even?
Look, I was in the US recently before the corona in winter, and also I was there in 2018 for several months. The United States of America has, you go into the supermarket, it's full of stuff. It is always full and it is always packed. None of these have to change. Things that humanity enjoys with respect to food, these things do not have to change. We need food. Okay, so we're not talking about all of a sudden, a shutdown of everything. We need to just make sure to understand what we have and how we can make sure that everybody, gets their stomach full for the moment, because that's the most urgent thing.
People are very nervous about socialism, at least here. The word makes people freak out. I think millennials are cool because millennials just, give me food and give me my internet and my phone and I don't care. But the rest of, everybody else from baby boomers in general, I think they're kind of nervous about socialism.
Why be nervous about socialism? You should be more nervous about your neighbor who's probably got in his garage more ammunition than the army, and he's nuts enough to do anything. I'd be scared if I was living in the US under those conditions, because I'll tell you what happens when people run out of food. They do horrific stuff because it turns into a wild animal farm, a sick animal farm. And that should be really scary.
So that's a very real possibility that if there's no food, then crime is going to surge.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be worried about socialism. I'd be worried about all those nutters who are hungry people running around with guns in their hands, and you'd be worried if you got kids and a little bit of food left on the side to eat.
Okay, so I have 2 extra loaves of bread in my freezer. What am I supposed to do? Just go find someone to give it to?
It's not that you as an individual can do anything about it. Nobody at an individual level can do anything about it. This needs to be communicated at a global level to humanity, that we are now moving to a phase where the world does not tolerate this overconsumption. It just doesn't. The world doesn't. And you can't have one country or a few countries having all the resources of the planet, while 80%, 90% are hungry, because that 80%, 90%, even if they're not in your country, they will come to you as migrants. They will immigrate to your country and they will take it over. So there is there's no independence here. Independence Day for every country is over. Okay, let's all get this.
It's like Interdependence Day.
Yes, it's Interdependence Day.
First of all, this is just I bet that just people hearing this and maybe getting shocked a little bit just goes to show how true it is that we have to go through an educational shift here, like a conscious a transformation of human consciousness, and that has to be facilitated by education. Education becomes the most important thing in this transition. It's almost impossible. Like the new economy, the new world will rely on educated human beings who already think differently and have different preferences and know how to translate what they're feeling and their fears into what is actually the problem and what is actually the solution. Because what you're describing, and let me just kind of recap something that we started from, and I think that was beautifully explained, that we are basically experiencing a knee-jerk reaction of people, of individuals, of companies, of governments, that is just basically saying, let's go back as quickly as possible to what we know because we don't know anything else. And
I'm scared that I'm not going to have food. I'm scared I'm going to lose my home.
So we need to focus on education of and informing and bringing to awareness of people 2 things. Yes, you can and will have food and security and medicine and everything you need. And no, it doesn't have to be in the constraints of the old world. We can build it in a new way. Can you talk a little bit about how we can build it in a new way, Mutlu?
Absolutely, you can build it much better in a new way, simply because now you're cutting down on all the resources that were previously being spent on a lot of things that were not necessary for humanity. Everybody,
for example,
all the governments are saying, well, we don't have money for this. Well, wait a minute. You've been spending a bunch of money on a lot of useless stuff that we never needed in the first place. And now you're telling me you can't provide food for the people or health for the people? In 2008, they had the financial crisis. And what they did then was print money and save the banks. And they did something really against capitalism. All right? Because capitalism governs that, listen, if somebody needs to fall, they need to fall. But they didn't let that happen. So they failed in applying an economic model which they were supporting in the first place. What did they do? They saved the banks. They took everybody's home because they couldn't pay the mortgages. So a bunch of people were left homeless. The banks got all the money, and all the money that the banks did get, they got paid for their salaries and bonuses. Can you imagine that?
It's
ironic. No shortage.
It's ironic.
Exactly. It is absolute corruption. And whenever governments say, well, our economy can't handle this, or we can't do this, and we don't have funds, it is simply corruption and nothing more. Every government on every planet has the ability, the power, and the resources to utilize the government to divide labor, to work on necessities or what we need to get to survive. And no country has any shortage of that unless they've got a corrupt government.
And every country has a corrupt government, and every single country has a corrupt government.
Okay.
Listen, technology.
Yeah, go ahead.
Technology is so advanced right now. You can feed people from warehouses. You can feed people from just regular homes, rooftops. It is not a matter of how to feed people. It is not a matter of how to look after people. It is a problem of how to make a few people even richer. That is the dilemma they have.
Yeah, I heard they're
Okay.
going to bail out the airlines now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why would you? Why would you? You are completely disrupting capitalism. If you want to be a capitalist, a really good one, you got to let the market forces work. Don't stick your nose in there. And every time they do this, they did this with Bernanke, they did it with Greenspan, they're doing it now with this poor guy who's a new guy in the Fed, and he's just gonna blow it. That's it.
There's
I
got to
gotta
be
say
huge.
this. What? Go ahead, Seth. Say it again.
There's got to be such back office dealings and things and so many
Yeah.
pressures on these people.
I want
Look,
to say this: that they have. It's clearly, they have the resources. Again, another example is the $2 trillion that suddenly appeared for a stimulus package in the U.S. and so on. But again, I think going back to a few minutes ago, what the main thing that if people are missing a sense of security, government leaders, those at the helm of things, are missing vision. They have no vision. It's this dichotomy of thinking that we are either capitalists or we have to be communists, and that's where it ends. And you either this or you're that. And an evolution of human psychology and a change of values and a change of preferences and education as a new foundation for a new society is not even something that people can fathom. It seems like, how do we cross that bridge?
First of all, like I said, we have to cross this sheer ignorance that we have. You describe it rather nice. People think we have to be this or that. We don't have to be this or that. We could be a bit of everything, actually. We could take the best of everything and bring it together as long as it serves the overall purpose of keeping society together without violence and giving their necessities. Because a lot of the people are already on the planet working just for their necessities. You have to understand, the percentage of people that have a good life is very small. The majority of the people who are already working and living, they work on a day-to-day basis. They make their daily bread, and that's it. They go to work the next day to make that day work. It's not like a lot of people are working with a vision for future that they're going to retire nicely. That's just not going to happen. So the system here doesn't need to be turned upside down. It just needs to be managed correctly without the corruption. And I'll tell you this as well. You'll be able to see towards autumn, when they're unable to get out of this little vicious circle of what to do, how to do this and stuff, and they want to keep going back. They're going to hit a high level of unemployment, and you're going to see people all over the world hitting the streets. Venezuela had the same problem. Venezuela is the most richest country in oil resources, the richest. Okay, one little problem, the whole thing went out the door. Why? Because improper management of economy, corrupt management, and lack of calculation of economy, and not knowing what to do with things. This is true for every country. You'll have the same thing in Africa, in Asia, Middle East, Europe, and the US.
So hold on, you wear several hats, okay? So I'm gonna ask you to kind of switch a little bit because I think most shows wouldn't do that. They'd bring in a celebrity or an expert and he'd talk about his field, but um, we're also here in this space with the people who are joining us here, and we're broadcasting on Kabbalah.info's Facebook and YouTube page. Okay, so you basically, I mean, this is an incredible segment, and I feel like it's just an unbelievable what you're opening here. But, and I don't know if it's possible, and I don't know if this is being too ambitious, but can you bring it down now as maybe like a Kabbalah instructor? what does a person do today? Like okay, it's a person, they're first coming, they're sitting down in your class or in your virtual class, and you understand what's happening in the world, and you understand but it's not just a Kabbalah introduction class, because now it's a class about how do I exist in the new world that's coming. Like, am I just powerless waiting for a politician to do something? Where is my inner work? What can I do?
Well, this is the whole thing. A student of Kabbalah has the greatest advantage on the planet, simply because you understand the system works integrally. So your dilemma is less, simply because your knowledge about how the world works allows you to balance yourself. And this is what life is expecting from humanity. So any person who's immediately a student of Kabbalah with us, who's flowing now according to what the laws of nature demand from us, is already saving him or herself from a lot of dilemma. Because all our problems in life is lack of flow, lack of proper connection with what's happening around us. Now, a student of Kabbalah is learning how to balance themselves according to the laws of nature. And this is actually what life wants from us. This is why we're being pushed with this virus, with this economic crisis, with this fear about future, everything. So we're like surrounded from all over the place, being pressured. Now, the best way to counter that pressure is to balance yourself towards those pressures of nature. So a student of Kabbalah has got double the advantage. Anyone who flows with the laws of nature is actually given the opportunity to survive rather than perish. And that's the beautiful thing about this system.
Let's talk about that a little more. So it's true. From first of all, the way you synthesize, what your knowledge from Kabbalah and your knowledge from the economic world is just beautiful, and I think adds a lot of value to people who are listening to this. Let's talk about the laws of nature for a second. So let's try together, maybe the three of us, to kind of share, how does the knowledge of laws of nature from the perspective of Kabbalah, from the study of Kabbalah, help us see where the world is going to? And essentially that would need to be translated into what all of humanity needs to know to some degree. So you started by saying that the nature is an integral system, an integrated system, right? That each and every element is connected and interdependent, and they all aspire to be in balance, right? What else can the laws of nature, as Kabbalah explains them, teach us about our change, about how humans have to change? What do we need to become in this world that we're going towards? How do we start changing our mindset, our thinking, so that we can be more in balance, in tune with the system?
Look, everything that we do in the wisdom of Kabbalah is based on education. It's based on understanding life, understanding how life works. This is what a Kabbalist is really delving into. He understands how the system works. And this is what this wisdom brings us. It is exactly for a human being designed to understand where he is, what he needs to do, and how he needs to do it. This is the only wisdom that will give you the peace of mind without question marks. So this, it's the learning and the knowledge you get from the wisdom of Kabbalah that allows you to actually relax, because you understand, because you know. Why are people afraid? Because they don't know.
Right. You start to feel the guiding hand in what's happening. You don't feel that this is some
Absolutely.
punishment that's leading us down to some unknown future with some unknown, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you start to see a guiding hand in nature that's moving us towards a good future. And like a child, if he could just listen to his parent, everything will be okay. And if he keeps saying, no, I want to stay up. No, I want to stay up. I want chocolate ice cream for dinner. I want to go back. You see your teeth are going to rot out. You're going to get sick. You're going to do this. But the kid just feels, I need the sweet. I need to just calm myself down.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
one of the main points, just one of the main points is that nature is an educator. This is something that becomes so clear when you learn the wisdom of Kabbalah and you develop these sensitivities to see this in your personal life as well as in the global scheme of things. And that's just a wondrous realization, you know, and a perception that you begin to have. Can we deliver that to everyone on the planet? Just imagine what that would do.
I think we have a really nice opportunity now. I think a lot of the anxiety people feel right now is because of this lack of knowledge. Okay, because uncertainty brings about fear, and it starts to brew in you in terms of anger and frustration, and then it turns out into violence and all kinds of social disruptions because you don't know what's going on. So the wisdom brings about this knowledge about what exactly is going on. And once you understand what's going on, then you can see with the students of Kabbalah how we're also relaxed. We're relaxed. We understand what's going on. We're in flow with it. We know what we need to do with it. And there's just no stress. And we're just doing stuff. And I think this is the best example that the world can see. A lot of my friends say, why are you so relaxed? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I said, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I do know. So you can get stressed out, but I don't have to.
I know you. I don't know if you heard it earlier, but I made a post similar to this concept on Facebook, and a couple of people responded, like, put up or shut up, basically like, oh, nice words, but like, let me see you go build a hospital. Let me see you go give the last loaf of bread out of your fridge. And it made me really think, like, am I missing something? Am I doing something? But it was a great clarification, because it's what you're saying. It's once you start to learn from nature and start to make the changes inside of yourself, in that we're affecting the system, in that we're affecting our relationships. It's not about just running out, because people want to know the action. Just tell me what to do, which switch to push. But this is a process we're going through. It's right. It's like a baby's born and he doesn't get married the next day, or he doesn't become a father the next day. It's a lot of changes, a lot of inner changes that have to happen. We need to now go through a lot of inner changes. What you kind of laid out our current situation, or you did lay out our current situation very clearly, removed the BS and the veil over it to see what's going on. And then we discussed there's enough food, there's enough houses, there's enough land, there's enough everything for 50 billion, right? So we already understand the final state. And now we have to move all of humanity through that transition period. I think actually we don't have to. Nature is doing it. We just need to agree to it and see it. And I think, like you said, for Kabbalist, he's more calm. We can relax, everybody. That you don't have to run outside now and go build something, fix it. The first thing we need to do is start to understand what's happening to us. Understand that there's a parent, a guiding hand in nature here that is developing us forward. And together we will understand how, because by ourselves, there is not a solution that one person can do. The solution comes from our good connection together. Nature's not permitting us yet to come together. So
well, look, we're all so used to getting in touch and being all coochie moochie and stuff. And I think we need to kind of, life is also showing us, that's not how it should be. Okay. A lot of people might say, well, what's your input? What are you going to do? Well, first thing, we can all just shut up and sit down and learn. Okay. Without doing anything. I don't have to go build a hospital. I don't have to go build this. I don't have to do nothing. Just shut up, sit down, open the books, and let's see what's going on. Because what happens is once you start learning, that inner change is already starting to occur. So yes, it is a process, but now we're at such a state that, and life is squeezing us so hard that anybody can just, get the gist of it, get the idea and say, oh my God, this is it. This is so easy to understand. And this is what I see with a lot of students. They just grasp it. What took me 15, 18 years to go through, they're just grasping it in a few months. And it's like a wonder. So humanity is so ready, and we don't have to go out and rebuild and reinvent the wheel at all. Everything in economy can actually stay exactly functional as it is functioning, but just with less of the consumption, because simply because we don't need the overconsumption, and this overconsumption is the thing that's actually killing us. So once you understand that, if I'm eating more, I'm killing myself. If I'm running out to get more, I'm actually wasting my life. If I could just understand that the more of everything I get, the surplus of everything is like a poison that's really killing me. And this is the only thing we need to understand. It doesn't mean that you have to force yourself to have less. It just brings you to this understanding that running after more than what I need is actually killing me. It's making me sick. I'm getting cancer. I'm getting heart attacks. I'm getting depressed. I'm getting lonely. I'm getting miserable.
And it's created a world, an entire world, where we all have to just be in this cyclical chase where we're chasing our own tail, and then we have to fight each other and defend ourselves and make sure that we have enough for tomorrow, and anxieties and uncertainties about the future and mortgages and so on and so forth. And we could just stop. We could just stop. And here's where nature as an educator is coming in and saying, just stop. You don't want to stop? Okay, stop. I'm forcing you to stop. Now, can you take the next step forward on your own? This is the question.
Each egoist says, how am I going to, but what about me? How am I going to have my life? How am I going to build everything? And again, here's what nature says. If we stop, right? What happened when we stopped? All of a sudden, the air got clean. All of a sudden, things started to grow, right? So we don't have to, in our minds, figure out how to solve everything, because we can then participate if we stop the overconsumption that Mutlu is talking about. If we stop just our ego, this monster inside of us that just wants to devour everything, but get in the flow with what this force that is operating on us is doing, we'll be in the intelligence with it. We'll understand what to do along with it.
Absolutely. Because the first impact I see with students is that, they come with anxiety because life, makes you anxious. Okay. So they come with a bit of stress, anxiety, and dark clouds over themselves. And, with the students, you can see that the minute they start studying, you can see that things are clearing up. They begin to understand. They go like, oh, this is why, and that's how it happened. Da 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 da. They begin to make this relation, and it is going to be so much more easier for humanity because the whole world is ready. The whole world is in a shutdown. So it's a good time period. Because when we first, came as students of Kabbalah years ago, the world was at its prime in pleasures, and what we could do and have. So it took us a while to overcome many things and to understand the process. But with the new generation, with the new people coming, I see with students all the time, they're ready for action. They're ready to go. They understand. They grasp the situation. They're by no means gullible or stupid. I'm very, very happy to have every year I teach new students, and really amazing to see every year the increase in quality of the people that come. Seriously,
Mutlu, we're about to wrap up the show, and maybe you can say a few words about for those who maybe are hearing you for the first time or don't know where they can find more stuff or lessons that you give. What lessons are you teaching these days in these systems?
I teach 5 times a week. Once on Sunday I teach the KABU grad environment. On Tuesday evenings I do lessons for Africa, and
in English.
Monday.
In
those
English.
are in English, yeah. And Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I do Turkish lessons for Turkish speakers. So
You're on the fast track to success, my friend.
it's quite a full-on routine.
So the
Quite a full-on routine.
KabU is the English language
sort of
environment
online educational center for
online
Kabbalah,
self-study,
right? Yeah.
which brings a person into then the grad environment where Mutlu is, and then into the daily study if you want to continue. So if somebody here, maybe Kabbalahinfo moderator, can put the link to KabU, where you would have an opportunity after going through the first intro courses to be in the grad environment with Mutlu. And Mutlu, and if not, we'll put that link here for everyone. And how about writing? I think you've done some writing. If you have any English language writing articles that we can.
So I actually got them on my LinkedIn page, where I did a lot of stuff on the economy and also a few on social, on humanity as well.
Is there a way that you can link those to?
I can send you a link if you like.
Yes,
send the link and we'll post it as well.
Okay. So I'll send the link because I wasn't prepared for that. Sorry. So I've got it. I'll dig it out from LinkedIn where I've got my articles, and then I'll send you guys a link.
Eugene says, "I love this dialogue." Gene says, "Thank you so much." From Alabama. All right, you got a fan in Alabama. Saul, Ilanit, Shira, Robert Gallant says, "Wow." Alfredo says, "Thank you." So this has been Walter. This has been a great show. Really amazing energy here today. Incredible insights. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
We're gonna play a song, Mutlu. It's also a special song that kind of captures where we need to go. We played it on our previous episode as well. Tash was here and he showed us live how he gave birth to that song. So people wanted to hear it again. So here it is. We're signing off. Seth, any final words?
I think we said it all. Thank you for being here.
Mutlu, thanks again for this incredible talk, and let's enjoy.
Be back on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Let's enjoy the song from Tash. We will see you in the next show.